We are looking down on Greensburg, and you can see the courthouse. And this is Pittsburgh Street coming down this way. And we're going to look at a house down here because it's an old log house. It was an old log house. In May of this year, in May of 2018, it was destroyed. And if you go there now, you're not going to see anything. It's just an empty hole. We'll take this little guy and sit him down on the street right in front. You can look around and see what's around you. This is the house. This was an old log house until it was torn down in May of 2018. It sat there from the early 1800s, and the occupants that I'm aware of were the Turney family, T-U-R-N-E-Y. Jacob Turney bought it rather early. Jacob Turney Sr., not to be confused with his grandson. Jacob Turney, another Greensburger who became quite well known as in the state government and federal government. He was also a district attorney. Just to look around, see what's here. You can see up the street. And we see the old house that we'll be seeing torn down. And I believe that's enough. This is the house that we're looking at. It is, or rather it was, 133 East Pittsburgh Street, and it is a log house, and it was recently destroyed. This is a survey of it done in 1982. The configuration of the house is pretty much an L, and there was a little bit of an addition put on the back of that L. This is the first mapping of it that I was able to find, 1854, and it still has Jacob Turney's name on it. And in the 1850s, it was eventually transferred to his son, Samuel. Jacob Turney Sr. bought that place about 1815 from John Wells, and it was a log house. And by 1845, it was assessed at $750, and it had weatherboarding on over top of the logs by that time. By that time, Jacob was passed away. He died in 1827. This is over on Pittsburgh Street in the other direction. Jacob's brother Adam had a tin shop over here. This was Old Dutchtown. Both Adam and Jacob were sons of Daniel. He was the original Turney who came here to Westmoreland from eastern Pennsylvania. This is mapping from 1857. It gives you a little bit clearer of the house. And there was a log stable in the back. This is 1876. It shows right here, Samuel S. Turney having ownership of the house by this time. His father was passed away. He had his own family, one of which was this guy, Jacob Turney. Jacob was a notable Greensburger. He was a district attorney, a lawyer. He was also in the State House at Harrisburg, and he was also in the United States Congress. He was the last Turney to be in ownership, and the place passed out of the Turney name in 1891. We are going down the basement steps of the old house that has been torn down. That shows a landing, and the basement is coming into view. And somebody probably wished they would have cleaned that up before this shot was taken. The place had a cement block foundation, but before that it obviously had a stone foundation. Now we see some of the structural work. And then when you see the beams that held this place together, you no longer wonder how it lasted so long. It was there and present at least in 1815, and no doubt a good bit before that, but we don't know how much longer. This is the attic we're looking at. You can see the metal standing seam roof showing through the roofing boards here. That's a rafter, believe it or not. This place was really built. And again, the galvanized steel of the standing seam metal roof. These rafters were put together with pegs, not nails. That's a standing seam metal roof up there. Now we see a little bit of detailing from the inside. All this is now gone, and we will see the destruction of it very shortly. That's the first floor ceiling and the second floor full floor. That is a doorway there. Very serious beams, those things are. That's a mortise and tenon joint there, holding the joists up. Now we come to the back. I suspect this might have been an outside fireplace at one time that was eventually incorporated into the house. Maybe even a summer kitchen. And we're looking now to see how those logs were fitted together so that they didn't come apart. And the big old cat backhoe now starts to work, ripping the place to pieces. This place endured many hard winters and difficult winds and storms. And now an old Caterpillar backhoe comes rolling in and rips it apart. These are the beams. A bunch of those beams were hauled up to Hannetstown and put in the fort for safekeeping for when they might be needed for another log house. And I'm glad I wasn't in this house, the house beside there, when this place was being torn down. And you might wonder how they got this siding on this uphill house, because this house here was here first. And there you see the standing seam metal roof. Once upon a time, I helped tear down an old log house, and each and every one of the logs had a Roman numeral cut into it. Those guys knew where those beams were going. I can't help looking at these things without thinking of all the work that was put into them, from the forest, cutting the tree, to hauling the boards, the logs into town, and then hewing them into serviceable pieces that could be used for the wall and floor pieces. And that is what happens when an old log house is just converted into a pile of lumber. These photos came from the people who lived in this house over here, the Caharts, and John Nichols, who lived very close also. Actually, he works. He has his studio close to there. He's a photographer. And this is the demolition of the upstairs fireplace. You see all the dust coming down when it's ripped apart. You get a perspective on it from a bit of a distance. Seeing it once the building has been simply removed. You're looking right across Pittsburgh Street there. And that's it.